Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Taking the Lead. As you know, I'm your host, Ken Jacobs of Jacobs Consulting and Executive Coaching. And through our Taking the Lead podcast, video podcast series, we get the great opportunity to interview executives from the world of PR and communications, but we don't talk that much about PR and communications. We really talk about leadership. And through this series, I get to share with you the wisdom, the insights of leaders that I respect and that I've gotten to know. And that's my joy in this podcast. So let me tell you who we're going to talk with today. It's David Grossman. Many of you know him. I know that. He's the founder and CEO of the Grossman Group, an award-winning communication consultancy that helps leaders and organizations solve their everyday and toughest challenges through authentic and effective communications. And it was founded in the year 2000. We're going to talk about why that's important in a moment. He is a trustee for the IPR, the Institute for Public Relations, and a member of the Page Society. So let's welcome to Taking the Lead, David Grossman.
Thank you, Ken. And hey, like what a super introduction. I have to tell you, I can't wait to hear what I have to say today.
Let's hope that's true for the audience as well. So, all right. So we share one thing in common. We both started in PR. You work
Yes.
for Golan Harris, now Golan,
Mhm.
and one of its historic clients, long-term clients, McDonald's. Over time, you shifted from PR and external comm to focus mostly on internal comms and what I call leadership communications. So, as someone who has shifted over time, why did you shift over time?
Yeah, one of the things I realized at Golan Harris at the time, working on McDonald's, which was a super fantastic opportunity. I can't tell you the amazing people I worked with, and all of what I learned was the power of communications on the inside. So I started doing some work on marketing PR, and of course, we do these big events, well planned, smart, strategic. We had big budgets, and something would happen in the world. So all the media was covering something else, despite the fact we had set up this amazing event to get McDonald's coverage in lots of publications around the globe. I didn't like that. I didn't like the how much I felt like was out of our control. That's when I realized the power of communications on the inside, where I believed and realized we could have a lot more control over the outcomes. And for me, that was a lot more satisfying. And this was in the early 90s, so 3+ decades ago, when there wasn't that much of a sense of the importance of communications on the inside. And McDonald's, with other companies like FedEx, was leading the charge and thinking about what could world-class internal communications look like. I was fortunate to do some benchmarking, and I was totally jazzed about this new area and opportunity and focus.
Great, great. So, I want to ask you, I love your books about heart first leadership, just the title, the premise, the idea, the interviews in them. Why do you think it is so critical for leaders to lead from the heart first?
Yeah, it was one of the big sort of learnings and maybe re-learnings coming out of the pandemic that I had. So I was working on a book on leadership during the pandemic, and pandemic hit, and I thought to myself, well, gosh, how are leaders leading today? Well, like what these are unprecedented times. We've never been here before. Um, what are they doing? So I talked to a lot of leaders for the book, Heart First. And what they basically came back to was this idea that there's no playbook. We're sort of making things up as we go. And as we're making things up, doing the best we could, we're trying to be human as we lead. And I thought that was super important and new and different and compelling. This idea of that we need to lead with much more empathy and humanity and authenticity in today's world and environment. And I think it's even grown to be more important today, given the politics of our world and how employee needs are changing and our lives are changing and how technology is changing our world, and how can we please bring more humanity to the workplace and to our teams and to communities.
So when you started interviewing them, it wasn't tell me about your heart first leadership. It was tell me about your leadership. And the majority came back to you and talked about it's from the heart.
Yes, that this idea of um, I'm not sure what to do here was the theme, but I'm just trying to be a human being.
Mm. Mm.
I'm regularly touching base with my people. I don't know always what to say in those meetings. I like folks may remember these times. Like, do you know remember where you were when the pandemic hit and you realized it was real? And we're like, okay, now what do we do? And how is this going to work? And that's when I was talking to leaders, and they were very open and vulnerable about we've not been here before, but like I just want to be and act like a human being here in this situation. And it worked. Like I
Mhm.
think that's how we survived. Leaders survived, organizations survived, and did things in many cases that they never thought possible that they were, able to do. And so now we are in this place where how do we continue to bring what we know works so well, this sort of kinder, gentler focus inside organizations? And by the way, this doesn't mean that we're not focused on business results. We're not, of course, we're still balancing the needs of the team and the organization. It's just that we're leading in a little bit of a different way. One last thought on this. Empathy, it's often called a soft skill. Today, I think we need to stop saying soft skill.
Oh,
This is a
amen. 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 Yeah.
this is a I call it's a fundamental skill for how we motivate and inspire and move people to action today to help them do great things for our teams and our organizations and our communities and the world.
I so agree with that. And I think those of us who are helping organizations or individuals or executives with this, we must stop calling them soft skills. We can
Mhm.
call them critical people skills, strategic leadership skills. We've just got to come up with something else because soft can imply not really necessary or oh
Mhm.
it's an added there's something very marshmallowy about
Right.
that but I think it's incumbent upon us in this space to even if we don't come up with one phrase to replace it but to never use it and always correct it. So you're celebrating the Grossman's Group 25th anniversary, Mazel Tov. Would you be
Thank you.
willing to share its most challenging moments, honestly, and how you
Yeah.
led through them?
Yeah, you bet. It's crazy, Ken, to think 25 years. I have to say, I just started in an apartment in Evanston. I'd been working at McDonald's corporate and left with their blessing and a few clients. And, I had my dog and my PC and clients, came to my condo, and fortunate to have grown to a place that I'm super comfortable with. We're boutique size, um, so made a ton of mistakes, which I look at as lessons. One of my sort of philosophies is like in life, you either win or you learn. So
Right.
I've done a lot of learning along the way. The two probably biggest challenges were the market crash in 2009 and then the pandemic. Both times where I was super nervous about the business itself. I saw a business going away. I wasn't sure what was going to happen. I mean, these were times as an entrepreneur where, you have a responsibility for a number of mouths to feed. And I was most concerned about that at a time when there was so much uncertainty in both cases. As I think about the pandemic, so what did we do? I got my team together and we talked about like we would counsel others in a crisis. Let's understand sort of what's the reality today. What do we know? How do we take some of the emotions out of it? And then how do we think about what do we do together from here? I'm a big fan of co-creation and working together. And that was a defining moment. If you think about the pandemic and when that hit, when we all got together and we said, like, what do we know? What don't we know? What are we working on finding out? How do we need to stay connected? And and so that helped all of us, steady hand at the wheel. And then we were together, probably huddling every other day with updates for how things were going and what was working. And we are in a fortunate place. So we do transformation and changes, as you mentioned. So there were many organizations that needed our help at that time too. So that was super helpful to focus on what can we do? How can we help? Last thought just on this was we knew we could help people think about leadership and change during the pandemic. So one of the things we did right away was some free workshops, some video, 1 hour videos, and that we video calls that we put together basically just to say, here's some things that we hope are helpful to you at this time. It's free. This is some of our best thinking. We're happy to help you. It wasn't about the business. It was more just about how do you help? Because my belief is always when you help someone, business will come your way, whether through karma or otherwise. And I try and we try to be in the business of helping and making a difference.
Yeah, something else I'm hearing from what you talked about is something I believe, which is the best antidote for worry is action. We worry, you and I might worry, our clients worry. And when you worry, you feel like you're doing something, but it's false. You're
Mhm.
not doing anything. You're actually preventing yourself from getting yourself out of the hole and taking action. And so we advise our clients, what action do you want to take here? And it's in the form of a question for a reason. Whether
Mhm.
they want to think, what are some baby steps we can take? And as that starts to feel better, they take bigger and bolder ones. Some are ready to take a few big, bold ones, but action is the antidote for worry. We've learned. I also want to comment on something
Yeah.
else you've said, the notion of these lessons along the way. Wouldn't it be great to have a dinner party with the following leaders who I understand celebrated their failures? You know, Edison, Einstein, the Beatles, Ella Fitzgerald, Oprah, and Dolly Parton, to name a few. They
Mhm.
all were quite vocal about what they learned from their failures. And I think all of us should do, and we should all put failures in air quotes. I don't think Einstein or Edison put failures in air quotes, but I think you get the idea. All right, let's talk a bit about the Grossman Group, especially today with current events
Sure.
going on. It helps organizations replace employee apathy and confusion with improved diversity and inclusion. Now, those are some, unfortunately, those are fighting words today.
Mhm. Yeah.
How does that work in an era where DE&I programs are being vilified, shut down, or banned?
Yeah. We could spend hours on this.
Yeah.
No question about it. Super important topic that you're bringing up for today. So, as we think about transformation and change, so much of our work is about helping organizations activate strategy, sort of codify and help employees live culture, move through change. And what's super important is there's always a business case attached to whatever that work is. It's a new strategy, a new piece of a strategy, transformation. It's an acquisition. And so we think about inclusion and diversity when there's a strong business case inside an organization. So, for example, and let me just say, I personally believe it's hugely important as a diverse business owner myself. I've seen the power of it. I understand it. Obviously, the legislative climate has changed today. Organizations in this multi-stakeholder world need to be just super cognizant of all of the stakeholders that are important to it and its values. And so I think what I know is where there's a business case where diversity and inclusion is especially important. Organizations that need to innovate, for example, a ton of our clients need to innovate. There is no way you're going to innovate your products and services without a diverse set of people and thinking and perspective and ways of working. I think the mistake we've made, if you will, and or maybe where there's some lessons is where organizations have come forward with empty words, not backed up by actions. They've gotten ahead of, I think, what's important without a business case. And I think that's not served them well. So all our work is about what can we help senior leadership authentically get done inside the organization, understanding the views of a myriad of stakeholders with employees at the center there. So it's not about what to say and how to say it. It is. However, it's also as importantly about what to do and what not to do.
Very helpful. So we're going to end with a little speed round. 3 questions. What's
Okay.
your life mission? Not your business mission, your life mission.
Yeah. To make a difference. Growing up, I think I watched too much. Well, I know I watched too much TV. And by the
Our
way,
generation, right? Yeah.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and I think we're in the same generation where if you had to
Maybe.
dislike TV badly enough to like step forward, move toward the TV and change the channel. Anyway, I loved
Yeah.
superheroes growing up. Um, the Justice League of America was a cartoon I always watched. I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to have a superpower, by the way, I think as a kid, and that always stuck to me. So this idea of making a difference, super important to me.
Top leadership heroes and why?
Yeah, my sense is maybe if you when you ask this of others, they may give you people. For me, it is everyday people who
Hmm.
choose in a moment of time to be vulnerable, authentic in a way that brings forward a solution, a possibility, a vision, something that everyone feels really great about, that's inspiring and motivating. So for me, I'd love to be able to continue just to celebrate those moments that individuals take and make when they step maybe a little bit beyond their comfort zone, but where it's really true leadership that makes a difference today. And in many cases, of course, that includes leading with heart.
Excellent. So what's something about you that our viewers, don't know? They're going to read, whether they read your books, go to the Grossman Group website or your LinkedIn profile, which we encourage them to do all three. But what's something not there that, exclusive? You heard it first on Taking the Lead.
So we talked about I worked at McDonald's corporate for a number of years. I think this may be on the internet or on my LinkedIn profile, but I worked in the restaurants in high school and college, the busiest McDonald's restaurant in Milwaukee. So I started as crew. I moved all the way up to a manager, which is how I paid for college. Go
Wow.
Badgers, by the way. So I ended up doing hiring and orientation and training. Anyway, it was an Olympic year. And McDonald's, of course, a big celebrant of the Olympics, always, they had what they called the Crew Olympics. So at each of the restaurants, you competed for the best drive-through order taker, the best front counter order taker, the best fry maker. I kid you not. And I was such a like I loved McDonald's for a lot of different reasons, but there were all these like processes and I was good at it and I was able to make money and I was learning a ton. So I was in the Crew Olympics.
How
Um,
funny. How
so
funny.
here's how it went. So I won my store, which was super fun. Then I won my patch. So there were like 5 restaurants in a group, my patch. And then I went to the Wisconsin competition growing up in Milwaukee. And so I ended up being third, which was a bummer because I didn't go to the national big competition. Only
Hmm.
1 and 2 went, but it was super fun. I loved my time both at corporate and in the restaurant. I learned a ton. I think so much of what I know today or what I'm like I pull forward came from my time in the restaurants and the people I met and the folks at corporate. So I was in the Crew Olympics. That's my
That's
little
that's
known fact.
fantastic. That's
Only heard
hysterical.
here.
I don't know if
Yes.
it's in your LinkedIn. We're going to claim it's exclusive. So, how can viewers get in touch with you? What's the best way?
Sure. So email is great, dgrossman at yourthoughtpartner.com. I also, and I learned this from Ron Culp, by the way, I take phone
Big
calls.
fan. Big fan of
Yeah.
Ron Phelps.
Yeah.
We got
So
to have him on the show. There, I'm putting it out there, Ron. If you're watching, we're going to have you on.
yes, he would be amazing. I mean, he has amazing wisdom to
Oh,
share.
yeah.
One of the things
Yeah.
I learned from him is pick up the phone. So folks can call me too, 312-498-6557. So, happy to
I,
take
I'm
calls.
worried you're going to get all these calls now about extended car warranties. So let's hope that no phony phone calls. All right. I want to let people know to get in touch with me to discuss leadership if they want to explore coaching, whatever the case may be at this point. They say it along with me. KEN@JACOBSCOMM.com. KEN@JACOBSCOMM.com. And we're going to thank you, David Grossman. A lot of learning here, a lot of fun. I'm going to share for those in the New York metropolitan area. I learned a lot working at Nathan's Famous. Those of you may
Mm.
know, 2 summers. You learn a lot working fast food. You really do. You really do.
Yeah. Is
Anyway,
that so? Are you a corned beef or pastrami or turkey
no,
or?
Manny, I was so young, it was high school. I was not allowed to work the slicer, but
Okay.
burgers, French fries, hot dogs, and then one summer I came in every morning. Why am I sharing this? At 6 in the morning, setting up the whole store. In fast food, we call it a store. I don't know why. And
Yeah.
bringing up all the paper goods from a very scary basement and just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cups of coleslaw and potato salad. It was a crazy job. Anyway, on that note, let us just say thank you again, David, and until next time, keep on taking the lead.